It was a good question.
Let me just be blunt about something else. All right, so if in fact, the preliminary numbers I have from Mike Dombrowski was that it was an $8 million initial capital investment for the plan. So half that would be beach renourishment from the state of Florida, half that would be from Restore. Well, that's $4 million. We've been talking about only having about $4 or $5 million for Restore projects. So I just want everybody to realize that it's possible that your number one and maybe your only project in the implementation plan might be a $4 million beach renourishment project, and now your point for phase one. I mean, that's how much money it's going to take.
Okay.
Not necessarily, you might agree that we can expand to $6 million for your phase one of your multi-year, but, you know, the bigger the pot of money we put in for the MYP, the longer it takes to accumulate that
That's
money.
what you think it's gonna take to get started, $4 million?
Yes, sir. The initial estimates that I had in Nebraska are $8 million for initial, put enough sand back that it stays 8 years.
Then what about all these other people that turn in applications?
They'll have to wait to phase two.
Y'all better act quick.
Well, let me ask you something. I know what it was. Is there a possibility that through the MYIP, that when we submit this project, that a state agency like DEP will say, oh, that's a very good project, let's tack on to it?
We plan to put
Is
that in the
there a
application.
possibility?
Oh, no, in the application, we'll say, because you all need to approve this, I mean, and you've already said you want matching money, well, guess what? We have a program now that matches 50-50, which is about as high a matching money as you can get. So in my application, for MYP that you all ultimately, and RAC will have to review, yes, I'm gonna say in there that we are eligible for DEP matching money at 50-50.
Good.
Without the match money, then it ain't gonna happen.
Right, and without the matching money, it's not gonna happen anyway, right?
But the
Right.
county's gotta come up with $4 million, and then you try to get $4 million from them for the total cost of $8 million.
Right, that's correct.
So you see where we're going?
Yes, sir, I do.
And that means nobody else in the county can apply for any money out of that first year's pot. So that puts us in a bind, but we gotta do something, or you folks gonna have trouble getting back and forth home. You see what I'm saying? So you need to stress this to you people, what I'm telling you.
It's not an easy decision to make.
We're trying to reach out of Olive Branch and try to do the right thing.
Yes, sir.
But it's not, it ain't something that we can wait 6 to 8 months for everybody to make up their mind. They need to give us an answer, because this has got to be put in this plan pretty quick
Yeah.
and submitted to Treasurer in order to get funding next year to get started. And I'd like to see this project, if we do it, move forward before we build a new road to protect that road. He's talking about a year from now.
I don't know, because, I mean, to be truthful, so if we move forward, I think, see, the legislature has approved beach renourishment money, and this
So it's
session.
got to go to the next
Yeah,
session.
it's gonna be 2019 before you get in there anyway.
Okay.
Well, look, can I ask a question? Can you go to the other counties in the meantime and ask them what they do for them day trippers?
I can, I'll be honest with you, this idea came actually from Gulf County. Gulf County is doing the exact same thing on Cape San Blas. They have the same problem we had. They actually had a beach built and funded by the taxpayer or the property owners out there, and it washed away before it got certified. So now Gulf County feels obligated, and I appreciate their stance, to put the beach back. So Gulf County, their MYP has one project, the phase one, and that's the beach renourishment on Cape San Blas.
That's it.
So, but I can ask Don Butler if they're taking into account, because they actually have a bigger problem than we do. They got a state park down there. They got 50,000, 5,000 people a day going to that state park. And I don't know they're getting any money out of the state park for a road that the state park needs. But I can ask them about that.
Well, it's bad that their beach washed away before it was certified, which means FEMA won't help them fix it.
Right,
So they're having to fix their whole thing on their own.
right.
How long will it take to get certified?
Well, you gotta get it built and all that, and you got to get people down to certify, yeah, they put this many cubic yards here,
While
and get
they're
all that
pumping,
paperwork
yeah.
done, and while they was waiting on that, it washed away again.
While they were,
No,
actually almost
storm.
while they were pumping, and I forget the details, but while they were pumping, a storm came in and washed out part of the sand.
Yeah.
Well, you better do this in the off-storm season.
Any idea,
If the people are willing to pay the maintenance cost of it.
any idea how Gulf County's handling their maintenance cost?
Yes, an MSBU assessment on the, well, actually, they'd already put the assessment in place.
Oh, that's right.
They
Okay.
put the assessment in place, and some of those
Okay.
guys are paying $10,000 a year.
Uh-huh.
I
Some
mean,
of
it's
them
a
people
lot
are
of
paying
money.
I got you.
$10,000.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I've given you all the bad news I can give you.
Was that the end of your report?
That's the end of my report.
All right.
That 10,000 made you sit down, didn't it?
You know, I've been getting away with I hadn't had to come to this podium before today.
It wouldn't make me sit down, make me run away.
He was moving.
All right, Alan's done with his report. Next would be Mr. Michael Morone.
Commissioner, public hearing at 11:10.
We got a public hearing at
Yes,
11
sir, we have
o'clock, yeah.
Public hearing scheduled for 11:10, 11:15 at the board.
Mr. Schuler,
All right, the first public hearing is for board consideration of an ordinance of Franklin County restricting the traffic on Duval Road and Mill Road. I'm requesting that the board table this public hearing so that Mr. Morone and myself, if the board so directs, has an opportunity to meet with forestry. Forestry has expressed some concerns that this weight limit would have an adverse impact on their ability to perform their duties for the state forest in Franklin County. And so I'm asking the board to table this ordinance at this time and not move
I'll
forward.
make a motion to table it.
Second.
we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any further discussion?
Yeah, tell them we wouldn't have to do this if they gonna do the right thing. Fix the road when they tear them up.
Yes, sir, that will be part of the conversation.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor? All opposed, that motion carries.
All right, Commissioner, the second public hearing, I am not requesting to be tabled. You are in a procedural position this morning to consider an ordinance regulating animals in Franklin County, Florida, and repealing all other ordinances of Franklin County, regulating animals, providing for enforcement, providing for penalties, appeals, and an effective date. This is not a brand-new ordinance. This is simply an update of your current 2001 animal control ordinance. Does the board have any questions for me about this ordinance?
I do, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schuler, you know, like, the city, this ordinance, is it gonna cover the city or just the county?
I believe I've written this just so that it covers Franklin County, but let me look and see where my definitions are.
So we don't have nothing, what about the city of Carabel too? It just gonna cover the county for it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, typically, we don't enact ordinances that would cover the incorporated areas. I mean, legally, what happens if we pass an ordinance, for example, if the board's directions to me this morning is you want this ordinance to be countywide, including the municipalities, to the extent that they have a animal control ordinance in the city of Apalachicola and the city of Carabel that's different than our ordinance, then their ordinance would prevail.
Okay.
So
Folks don't have one.
I do not know one way or the other whether they do or not for either Appalachia or Carabel. I've never looked at that.
They'll have to come up with one.
So our officers came up with nothing in the city limits, right? That
If
what
this
we saying?
ordinance, well, let me go through and look at that because I've,
Can't.
yes, I actually did something I usually don't. We are including all the municipal corporations, and I think I now remember why. I think when we talked about this a year ago, you brought that issue up and wanted to make sure that this ordinance would be broad enough to cover both the county's unincorporated area and the two cities, and it is written to cover all of Franklin County, including the two cities. That's in section 2, it's the last two sentences of section 2 on page 1. Any other commissioner questions for me?
I read over all that last night, Michael, and a lot of it looks like it's the same as it was, but I know you changed a few things in there. Is that basically what you did, a revision of what we had and kind of made
Yes,
it?
it was update. For example, the old ordinance had developed an internal inconsistency between our ordinance for dangerous animals and the state law governing dangerous animals. So I had to make sure this new ordinance was in line with the state law. And I've also added a provision that would cover those circumstances where you have, on occasion, the polite way to say it, you got people with too many dogs and cats and whatever living in a house, and it creates unsanitary conditions for the humans. It creates unsanitary conditions for the animals. The prior ordinance did not, in my opinion, address that situation and circumstance sufficiently, and this new ordinance covers it not once but twice, and that's towards the end of the ordinance, I believe around page 29 or so.
And it also, I read in there that the sheriff's deputies now could be considered an animal control authority as well as
I
ones.
believe all law enforcement officers, that would be correct. Principally, it's not going to be that because frankly, they don't like getting involved in it.
I understand, but they
do
can
have- They have the
under,
ability to help out as circumstances
needed.
warrant. That's
yeah,
correct.
I was reading all that. And anybody deemed appropriate by the animal control director, which is Fonda, and anybody working under his authority that could be deemed that. Okay, any further discussion by the board? Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, is there any public comment on the ordinance?
Come forward, state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Murray Harrison, and live at 361 Old Ferry Dock Road. And I read this pretty carefully, and there's no mention, and I haven't been able to determine, I've lived here 8 years off and on, I've lived in Georgia, of excessive barking and the number of dogs that are in certain premises in at least the East Point area. To me, they're approaching regulation as kennels because there's so many. But across from the street from me, I have one dog that barks every second that's chained. And then whenever an ambulance go by, if anybody lives over in that area, it's like, you know, the whole town. And I just am concerned. I've lived in other cities and towns and places where there are some restrictions, or if you have two people complain about excessive barking, not just one, that there's some remedy. And I don't know where all this was drawn up. I've lived in 8th generation Floridian, but I've lived in Georgia, plus here the last 10 years, basically. I don't know if anybody would have any comments, but it's
I do.
almost unlivable with so much noise. You know, if that's what you do, if you go to East Point, I don't see it in, you know, the South District in Apalachicola or on St. George, et cetera. So it's just my comment. I wish something could be included that, you know, you cannot have 20 dogs and so forth. The reason I'm particularly familiar with it, I had a heart attack and I walked 2 miles a day on all the streets of East Point. And that's not so much the problem of sleeping at night, but it's a very loose deal, and people there, I think, for the bulldog, which to me is dangerous under certain conditions, they think more about the dog than they do members of their own family. And it's kind of an exaggeration, so anyway.
Not really.
Commissioner,
Go ahead.
He's asked a compound question. He's got two issues. The first issue is there a regulation for kennels in the ordinance? And yes, there is. There's not a specific number. We didn't put a cap and said you can have, you know, 2 dogs and 1 cat, but you can't have that 4th dog. That kind of restriction is not in there. But we do have a provision in this ordinance referring to kennels, but we rely on state law. If someone has got enough animals that they would be considered as a kennel under state law, then they would have to come to the county and get a license for that. And as to the noise, that actually is a new section that I've added into the existing ordinance. It's on section 31 on page 24.
Is that under public nuisance?
No, sir, it's under section 31 noise, and it's also, that would also come under the heading of a public nuisance as well. So I've tried to not only have generally addressing some of these
Sorry, I guess
issues
I
what we have
missed
in the
that.
past, but I've also specifically put in a provision, and what I have in here is that unlawful for the owner or any caretaker of an animal to allow the animals to bark, meow, whine, howl, or make other sounds common to the species persistently or continuously for a period of 30 minutes or longer. So, you know, it's certainly not like a bark a second, but there's a period of time where if they are violating.
I'm sorry, I missed that. And who do you report this to?
Animal control.
You know, animal control, not the sheriff.
I'm not telling you not to call the sheriff, I mean. but-
No, I'm trying to understand, because I've tried to approach this through animal control in the past, and they kind of refer you to the sheriff, and then the sheriff's, a lot of the deputies own dogs, and they say, if you complain, you know, kind of crazy thing, so. But I appreciate you pointing that out very much.
Yes,
Thanks.
it's not a problem.
Any other public comment?
Pleasure of the board. Does the board want to adopt the ordinance as drafted? Or does the board have any modifications to make to the ordinance, or does the board not wish to take any action today?
Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion to approve as it is written.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
And that concludes the two public hearings, and just for the record, I did not submit a written report to the board because we had these public hearings, but to clarify the record, at the last meeting, I had gotten your permission to schedule an executive session concerning the lawsuit filed by Capital City Bank. I had announced to the board I intended to hold that executive session at today's meeting. As events have progressed, I have made the determination now is not the proper time to hold the executive session. So it may be rescheduled at some point in the future, but that is why you are not having an executive session here today.
And you have no further report?
And that is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, we go back to Michael Morone, Coordinator Report.
Good morning, Commissioners. We'll start with item number 2 on my report. We already addressed item number 1. St. George Island Business Association met last week and agreed to install directional signs throughout the commercial district on St. George Island. These signs will be on all wood 4x4 double posts. They'll be located on a specific location in the county's right-of-way and will not cause any impediments to vehicular traffic or bike path traffic. This is an effort to clean up the business signs posted around the island and encourage tourist traffic to the businesses. A map of the proposed locations and the proposed design is included in your packet. The St. George Island Business Association would like the board to approve the proposed locations and design this morning. Ms. Julie Krantz from the SGI Business Association is here to discuss this request further. And Commissioners, I have an update for you. The map I gave you guys is outdated. They added a couple locations to the map. And I will ask Commissioner Jones to pass them down. Hope I gave you guys enough while Ms. Krantz come forward and address the board.
Hi, I know that you have a copy of the location.
Could you state your name for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry, my name is Julie Krantz, and I'm representing the Business Association on St. George Island. I'm actually representing all the commercial businesses on St. George Island, the ones that are part of the association and not. I think we have a really unique opportunity with this vote in that we have a unanimous vote to support this on the island, unanimous vote that we got in our meeting. The signs are going to be very tasteful. They're going to be in line with what the island looks like and feels like. We're going to make sure they don't impede any kind of traffic, any kind of visibility. And I think that it will, and everybody is in support of removing the ad hoc directional signs that are all over the island in support of this, because they'll have an alternative basically to be able to get their signs up.
Rather than have all the signs on the right-of-way,
Yes,
which is a
sir.
battle we've been fighting.
Yes, sir.
This is an alternative to that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Mike, do you have any examples of the signage?
Yes, it's in your packet. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, this is actually, there's a couple of examples because you've got some major intersections where we're going to have a lot of the businesses. So this is one of the first ones. The coloring is probably going to be toned down a little bit. This is just
Where
a-
is it? 83. Okay.
I'm sorry,
Hang
if
on a
you
second.
hit the table of contents, if you scroll up on the map, that's on your packet, the examples are right there. I do
Yeah.
apologize
I
for
don't
that.
even see no,
And I'm talking to, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Attorney Schuler. Lighthouse signs, that's the endorsement. There you go.
where's it at? I don't even see no numbers here.
We wanted to ensure the signs were going to be safe. That's why we're going to be doing wood signs, so they'll be breakaway.
Okay.
Also something that'll be easily maintained. We're doing double post for wind resistance so that we will not have an issue, because obviously the island gets a tremendous amount of wind, to be able to make them very sustainable and maintainable.
Are these like metal signs?
They're going to be wood.
Wood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they'll have to be maintained.
Yes, sir, and that the maintenance and cost of all this is going to be supported by the Business Association as well as the individual businesses with the riders on that sign.
A couple of things. First, below the signs, you're going to see an endorsement from the Lighthouse Association saying they endorse the sign there. But in addition, Attorney Schuler just expressed some concern about the signs in the right-of-way. Is that what you were asking? I was kind of...
No, I think zoning is going to make sure the positioning is correct. They're going to have to approve all the locations. We have very good locations picked out, as far as making sure they're off the bike path, but not impeding any kind of pedestrian traffic or driving traffic.
Was that your concern, Attorney Schuler? I'm sorry.
Yeah, first of all, I'm just hearing about this in the meeting, and my concern is, are we is the board being asked to adopt regulations on commercial speech, which is not something we should just be jumping into. I mean, I'm not sure where this is headed today, so yeah, my radars are up and listening very carefully, but I'm wondering, are you asking the board to take any action today on something?
The action, yes,
Yes.
what they want, so they can move forward. The action, I'm gonna give you a copy of the map, is the locations on the paper map. Just ignore the one on the iPad. There are, I'm sorry, we have, of the 7, we have 5 locations that they would like to put these signs on that would be in the, basically in the county's right of way, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
And we already have a sign ordinance saying, no advertise, that's why we're able to go
It's
and
not
pick up signs.
advertising, it'll be, there's all kinds of provisions for way signs, basically, in
yes.
tourist destinations. and
So,
we
yeah, so
qualify
what
for
we're
that.
trying to do is get an organized manner in which we can have directional signs to the businesses on St. George Island. We won't have all these signs stuck in the grass, and we have to send out our road crew to pick them up every couple of months as they're stuck out there. We get into arguments as to whose sign should be there, who shouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. So this is
How you gonna address that?
how we're gonna address.
Whose signs should be there and whose signs should? Oh, you're talking about the individual signs?
Yeah, sometimes those little individual signs that they
Yeah, those
stick in
will go
the grass that
away.
we had to remove recently. So this is an organized effort from the Business Association to put these signs in certain locations, and the locations that's on county right of way is, Attorney shows what they're asking the board to basically get it okay for today.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I got some too. Go ahead, Mr. Locke, Commissioner Locke.
Do all the businesses on St. George Island belong to the association?
Not all the businesses do, but the businesses that are part of the association and the ones that even were not part of the association have voted for this. So I would tell you that we have a vast majority, but 100% vote for it who participated in the meetings, and it was a significant portion.
It won't be nobody.
This included everybody from the retail all the way through to the rental companies that basically bring in the majority of the revenue on the island. I mean, all the businesses voted for it. The signs are going to be limited as far as what it is. It's very specific use for the tourist. So it's going to be retail, restaurants, and services that are very specific to them, which are what you see now in the right-of-ways, are businesses trying to advertise and get that business to know where they are on the island.
So
It's-
it won't be nobody coming to us saying,
No,
my-
sir.
My business not on the sign.
No, sir. We were gonna take care of that 100%. It's very affordable. We had 100, like I said, we have personally spoken to and have 100% support from the businesses on the island. 100%. I don't think that you have no one here, and we have had no one on the island that has not opposed this. We all understand the value of it, and we all have a commitment to not be putting out these additional signs. What we ultimately need is an alternative.
Mike, let
We
me
need
ask,
that for our businesses, yes.
let me ask either one of y'all that can answer this. I'm looking at this one on our iPad, that says central location. That's where you come onto the island, you gotta turn left or right, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
That's number 2.
Okay. So that's gonna be 2
Number
on
2 in the
here.
map, yes.
Okay. Now, what if you have additional businesses that want to come in? They'll be put on further down on the post?
Yes, sir. There's plenty
Okay.
of room on the riders.
Now,
yes, sir.
is that gonna be in that particular location, that's not gonna impede traffic view?
No, sir, we already have a location.
it's gonna be-
picked. Yes.
Yes.
Facing the beach, public access, I mean, the public pavilions and all that. So that won't be an issue. These other places that they're going to, the other 5 places that they're gonna put signs, are we gonna address that at the same time?
Yes, sir.
In other words, I don't want it so low when somebody's sitting in their pickup truck, which may set actually kinda high, that they can't see traffic coming or going.
That's what the zoning is gonna take care of. They're gonna make sure that the signs meet all regulations, and we have locations selected that are on the other side of the bike path, and made sure that the median on Gulf Beach Drive is extremely wide.
Right.
It offers a lot of space right now for us to be able to do these signs, so we're not asking to fit it into a tight location.
And I'm sorry, Julie, you said, keep saying zoning. When you,
I think Mark is gonna help us determine the locations from zoning, right?
oh, okay.
Right,
I was
making
trying to figure
sure
out
that
what
it
you
doesn't
meant by
impede, they're
zoning.
gonna
I
ensure
heard
that
that
we're not
too.
impeding any visibility problem, and having any visible problems.
Yeah, I didn't say that Mark is fully involved in this situation.
Yes, sir.
too. It's, Commissioner Jones, myself, and Mark are fully involved with these signs and the locations. And I do apologize, Attorney Schuler, for not thinking about sending it to you about the right-of-way.
But the right-of-ways are so large, they're just tremendous if you've been, all of you guys have
Okay,
been out there.
my next question is, I guess it's pleasure of the board, but I would like any motion that was made contingent upon the attorney's review to address any other issues. I mean, they can move forward after the attorney's review, but
And before you make a motion, I want the board to be aware there are two locations there that depends on the states.
Yes,
that's the green,
States
one's in
route.
green?
Yes.
yes, sir.
Now, I will say this, and this is a thing Commissioner Jones has asked. He would prefer, and we talked about this last night, Julie, that when it comes to the color,
Yes.
he would rather that all the signs are the same color based on the state's requirement, because we know
Okay.
you've got to follow the state's rules on those two locations, so you prefer all the signs.
Well, I think that we ultimately want some consistency.
Yes.
We
okay.
want that to be that way. So we don't want somebody to come onto the island and see it one way,
And then drive
because you know how tourists
50
are,
feet
they don't
between them.
definitely pay attention to all the
That,
details. right?
and you get away from the issue of different businesses. Well, their sign's brighter than mine, so they're getting more,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
if
we're gonna
everything is
and-
consistent, everybody's getting the same advertisement, everything is more consistent as you spoke.
Yes, sir, and I think that one of the things that we are going to do is, that's coloring basically, and I know that we need to determine those, fine tune those details. But what we had to have from you, is an approval with, these are the locations that are okay, and that you're okay with the overall design of the signs.
Not so much the color, but just.
Not the
way-
colors,
the
and,
way it's
and
like-
and this was done in PowerPoint, so it was just, tried to give you an understanding of what
Well, the
they.
locations will be done by Mark, as I'm.
Yes, and I guess.
Through zoning.
But I wanted you-
Contingent upon the attorney's review.
Yeah.
Any further discussion by the board?
I would like to mention something. There's a couple of things that were brought out when we were meeting and talking about this, and these guys have been doing it, well, basically since we made the motion to remove signs. The discussion's been going on, but something that has not been asked, all these signs, especially the ones in the center, the ones at the top are the ones that are closest to where you are.
Yes.
Okay.
So
They're
it's
very
not gonna be a
purposeful.
discrepancy over, I need to be on the top, versus it's location basis how they're gonna be put.
Okay.
So I think that we've worked through all of the controversial topics that some of the
Oh,
businesses
trust me.
had in the past. And like I said, I think this is a very unique opportunity. We do have 100% support on this. The other thing is that, I guess from a timing perspective, I don't know. What we're trying to do is have these up so that it doesn't interfere once we start getting busy in the summer season. And we do have a commitment from an installation and design, our association, to ensure that it does happen thoroughly once you guys, or if you guys will approve this for us.
I congratulate them on getting everybody to agree on something.
We did.
To be
And
very honest with you.
like I said, we tried to address everybody, even the Lighthouse Association. They've actually got some phenomenal ideas on how to really make that central location look very nice and really coincide with what they've already done such a wonderful job around the lighthouse.
Pleasure
Make
of
a
the
motion
board.
to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any further discussion? Your motion is contingent upon
Yes.
attorney review.
Yes.
And your second is too, Mr. Lockley?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't see my name on that sign.
And-
You ain't got no business over there, Mr. Lockley. That's what they're trying to tell you. You ain't got no business over there.
And Mr. Chairman, just for discussion with the board, I'm thinking about things that we've done in the past where people then believe they have an entitlement, that the county can't take that right away from them. We just, for example, dealt with that with peddling recently. I want to make sure that the public and the board is aware that if the board should in the future decide that having signage in its right-of-ways is not appropriate, that you have the ability to remove those signs if that is your decision in the future. Is that
I mean, I don't see an issue with this, again, because I don't see an impediment for where these signs are gonna be located, just because of the uniqueness of that road, because it is so wide. And I totally understand that. If you have to do a road expansion or anything like that, you would need to have the right to be able to remove those signs.
That's the reason we're saying
Well, not
it.
just limited to an expansion. I mean, if the board were to decide that, having these signs in their right of way, which presently they don't have, if they want to remove them, then you have the inherent authority
Sure.
to remove those signs and take them
Not
out.
an issue. I don't
I'm
think
not
that's
saying
what
it's
you
going to
were
happen.
saying.
I'm
Right, you
can't
always
think of
need
a
to have
reason
that
why you would,
contingency.
But you do have that authority.
That's why we're sending it to you, Mr. Sugar, for your review. If that's your comment, then
Is
this
what it
approval is contingent upon your
But I wanted
review.
to out
Yes.
here publicly so everybody.
Make it part of the motion.
I think that was what the board was striving for. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
I got something, Mr. Chairman. not trying to make it take longer than it needs to. But when we were at the meeting the other day, Miss Joyce Estes was sitting by me. She said, Ricky, I don't know that you're gonna be able to get this done. I don't know that this can happen. I said, why is that, Miss Joyce? She said, we've been trying to do this for 18 or 20 years. To get people over here, number one, to agree on something, and number two, to try to actually promote each other.
Yes.
So this is a plan to do that. It kind of all started from the motion that was made to get rid of signs on our right-of-way, which was a good thing. It turned out to be not so positive a thing with the business owners, especially on the island. You know, this is all of unincorporated Franklin County, but with the business owners on the island, they took it as a negative, but we're trying to make it finish up being positive. So
Yeah.
just wanted to mention that.
And we still have that right, according to the attorney.
That's right.
If we deem 4 years from now that we want this stuff off the right of way, then it's got to go.
Yes.
That's, if it all works out good and we're all happy, then we're all one
That's
big
a-
happy
that's-
family.
Hey, this is a happy thing. Everybody's
There you
pretty
go.
happy about it right now,
There you
yes.
go. But the attorney's just noting that he didn't want the county to be able to give up that right.
Right.
And I agree with it.
Yeah, essentially, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, what I'm referring to is, I'm thinking a general use permit or a conditional use permit that'll be issued to those different businesses. So, and one of the conditions of that permit is we have the right to revoke it if we choose to.
Now, would you need to do that from an individual business, business
Or just the
perspective?
association, since they're.
Or just the
they're
association is
owners
gonna own
of the
it?
sign.
That was the really nice thing, is the association will be the entity. You would never have to go to the individual businesses for that. We would control that
So I don't know
for
how
us.
y'all set this
Yeah,
up.
Yes.
I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
right now.
that whole point was to not put a burden on the county at all, and to have you have a central location you go to for any kind of maintenance. If you had any problem with the signs, that we would be responsible for it. If a car runs over it, we would pay to have it repaired. Those kinds of things would fall back onto the association. We are gonna have the funding for that.
Attorney Schuler, all.
Yes, sir.
All those things that Ms. Krantz is speaking of were things that Mark Currington advised. That if
Yes.
they were trying to pursue this,
Yes.
this is what you need to do.
Yes.
You need to come up with something that's good and everybody agrees on. You need to come up with an entity that's going to, the county's not gonna have any money in this, or no, you say so in this. That's going to do the upkeep of the signage and stuff, and so that's the direction they're trying to go in.
Yes.
Right, right. And believe me, I'm not trying to be
Oh,
obstructive,
no, you're
but
good.
but whenever I hear something that sounds like
Yes.
the regulation of commercial speech, that is an area where it is very ripe for litigation and attorney's fees. So yes, that's the reason I'm perked up quite a bit this morning. But it sounds like the more we should be able to get these things worked through.
Yes.